Developments. Today we have a very special guest. He is the Executive Director of North Coast Small Business Development Center. Please welcome Michael Kraft.
Hello, Rebecca.
We're delighted to have you, Michael. Please tell us how you got into your business.
I kind of fell into it. Actually, people say don't look in the newspaper for jobs anymore. But I actually found this job out of the paper. I happened to have a good background. I thought I would probably get an interview. I actually never thought I'd get the job.
Well, you've done a good job of it.
Thank you. I can say a little bit more about how I'm prepared for it. But basically what we do is we help small businesses get started, grow, figure out how to write business plans, how to obtain loans, those sorts of things. And, I spent 15 years in higher education administration, especially in working with adult learners, and a lot of that transfers. And then I was a small business owner myself. I worked in both big and small companies, and I was raised in a little company.
So you've got a lot of personal experience in what you were starting to help everybody else with.
In and around it, yeah.
Well, I think people have more faith in those who've walked in their shoes. That's why you've probably reached so many so completely, Michael.
Well, and I really enjoy our clients. They're just people who are trying to do the best for themselves and their family, and some just want to create a job for themselves, just for one person, and some are growing significant businesses. And, this is the first job that I've had for more than 3 or 4 years where I haven't gotten bored. I am thrilled to go to work every day.
Well, with the economy down and the challenges up, I bet you have a brand new challenge every single day and more.
Absolutely. And there were some pretty tough things we had to help people with, starting late in 2008 for about 9 to 12 months. Didn't go as long as you would think. People really kind of got acclimated to banks that weren't lending and consumers that were spending less. So that it's been probably a year that people have been really kind of normal, slowly rebuilding, but, making plans for the reality that exists, but not acting like they were in crisis, not asking questions about how do you know when it's time to close the doors, really working their way through things. And a lot of folks are looking to start businesses. We had 50 clients either buy or start businesses last year.
What do you think the biggest challenge is for the new business starter today?
There are several. So we're broadcasting from Oakland. Regulation in California is something that people run headlong into, and you can be of a pretty liberal mind when you start. And by the time you've been in it for about 60 days, you think, wow, there's something to this possibility that we're overregulated. Access to money is the second one. The banks are still being pretty conservative, although alternative lenders seem to have money to lend. And then, just finding a market, just getting it all done in the work week that you have.
And you help these people with all of these things, each and every bit of them. You have an aspect of all of these answers to help them with?
In a way, our clients are the ones who do the work. We have expert business advisors who help guide them. They're very good at asking questions. It's not our job to tell somebody that your idea is dumb. I'm sure somebody told the folks at Google, you're going to make money off of a math algorithm of some kind? That's pretty dumb. And they went on. We're not going to be the people who do that. But we can help somebody, ask tough questions, figure out where their market's likely to be, to refine that, and how much they're willing to pay, and how that turns into a set of forecasts, and you decide if the company's viable, if you can live on what you can afford to pay yourself. And then as those startup issues work into growth issues, how do you decide whether you're going to continue producing in the United States or elsewhere? How do you approach a bank for a loan? How do you hire that fifth and 10th employee, and what are the new regulations that kick in at those sizes? And then we can help people get through fairly tough things. We had a lot of folks during that crisis time saying, I'm thinking I might have to lay off everybody. Is there a way I can only lay off 2? And, laying off 2 instead of everybody was a win that we were happy to take. And then it's always nice that there's the happy back end of that when somebody is ready to retire and they sell their business or the next generation takes it on. That's a very happy success for us.
I'll say. Well, most of the businesses that you've helped to present, to make, to establish, help get started, have remained here in California, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Some move to other parts of the state. Some move a piece outside of the state. It's very rare for somebody that we've worked with to just up and leave altogether.
Well, you've been a pretty solid foundation for a lot of people that have worked with you. Has your economic growth been what you thought it would be under these adverse times?
It's a mixed bag. And we're in the far northern part of the state, so this is a more rural economy, and we've had successes and failures. Organic things have continued to grow during this time, so our agricultural producers, and a lot of them are very small, who sell organic have in general done better. Organic beef is selling in the Bay Area like you wouldn't believe. On the other hand, we've got people who have gotten quite a bit smaller. Retail has been very hard. Those sorts of specialty retail and people that serve mostly a local market instead of a countrywide or worldwide market have had a harder time. I think the income in our area of the state has been mixed, some up, some down. Actually, in Humboldt County, our unemployment's a little better than the state, a little worse than the country. In Del Norte County, it's worse than both.
That's not a whole lot different than it's been in a while, but it does change some. I understand that proportionately speaking, you're doing pretty good. Is that true?
Well, yeah, we've got a pretty small population that we draw from, and yet the entrepreneurs that we work with here match some of the biggest regions in the state. We will be competitive with San Diego and with Orange County in terms of how many businesses our folks create, how many new folks they employ, new hires that they do, that kind of thing. I think that there's multiple reasons for that. Small business entrepreneurship is so fundamentally important. We have very little in the way of large corporations here, and none that are headquartered in this region.
Well, I read that the 90 some odd percent, 98 or something like that, almost 100% of the jobs in the United States come from mom and pop businesses, or family businesses, or very small businesses, not the big ones at all. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, large companies have in general been flatter down over decades now. They have become much more productive, and so the amount of goods and services, the dollar value that they produce per employee is truly stunning. But the job creation has almost exclusively come from smaller businesses.
In all the rural areas, smaller businesses are very, very important too. And look how much of America is rural.
Yes. Yeah, in rural areas, you tend to have a number of smaller businesses and, of course, niches that fit that. So in some areas, it might be a tourism niche. In others, it's an agricultural niche. Yeah, the small business impact in rural areas is very high. And then the government employment tends to be a higher percentage as well.
You are the executive director of the Small Business Development Center. Michael, explain to our listening audience exactly what that means.
So executive director is the title that nonprofit organizations give to their top manager. And, I am the CEO of the nonprofit that hosts the Small Business Development Center as a program. And then the Small Business Development Center, we're not government employees, but we are funded by various government contracts and grants to provide these services. The Small Business Development Center is one of the key funders, and it's the one that drives our mission. And that's a program that was started in the Carter administration and has been just this nice little engine for quite a while. Is that the kind of thing? Does that help?
Yes, it does.
I don't want to get too much inside baseball about boring governmental stuff, but basically we just try to help out the people who really create the jobs, which are our private sector clients.
What are a few things that the listeners should understand about rural economics in North America?
Clearly, there's not just one. People have this equation in mind that rural equals farm equals, USDA, and none of that is true for everyone. You have places that were former resource areas, mines and forestry that have declined. You've got gorgeous places adjacent to cities that do well on tourism. So, think Taos to Albuquerque and Santa Fe. You've got Indian country, and Native American tribes are in a much different place than what you think of when you think of corn silos and pigs. So it's different. We are more dependent on infrastructure. We're more dependent on cars. So discussions about, how do we live post-car are harder in rural areas. Because, to get where you are, Rebecca, to where I am, it's a drive. It's going to be a drive. And it's not likely that light rail is going to fill it up. And I love light rail, but I don't see it covering rural America that well. I think there are both challenges and opportunities in what has come to be a global creative economy. And it's a myth that rural places cannot be creative or be competitive in creativity-based industries. The key is you've got to have amenities and a way of living that are attractive to the young, bright, high-powered people that tend to power those industries. And we're blessed here in Humboldt County that we have a lot of that. And so, you can go to a kinetic sculpture race, and we invented that here. And we've got wineries, and we've got Arts Alive that is just a kick in the pants, and we've got a university that provides cultural programming. So we're a place that is fortunate. It's harder if you're the town in Iowa where Maytag used to be. They used to produce there, and then they went to Asia, because you don't have a history in most of those places of entrepreneurial activity and creative people and kind of weird people who create their own things.
Our guest is Michael Kraft. Michael is dedicated to public and economic development, and Michael is very fond of Humboldt County. Michael, you're very much involved in youth entrepreneurship. Please tell us about that.